All right, good morning, everyone. Let's start out with the roll call. Commissioners who are present, can you please state your names?
Barbara Baskerville.
Darcy Rourke.
And I'm Adam Murray. The three commissioners are present, so we have a quorum. So I think we can go right into our open public comments. We give 3 minutes for public comments. Is there anyone from the public who has something they'd like to say today?
I do have called in by phone online, so I will unmute you, and if you could state your name and then go ahead with your comment.
Hi there, this is Robert Anderson. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So thank you again, commissioners, for serving on this commission. And I see that you're putting it in turbo mode here to handle these complaints. And I really appreciate it. I'm sure the others do too. It's obvious that the voters believe that this was, an important and want higher ethical standards than what has been previously seen, and real and substantive, and not just words or on a website or paper. So I do appreciate it. I also appreciate the pushback. I was listening at the last meeting and heard how the county tried to kind of prevent the commissioners from seeing complaints again, which was odd. And so I appreciate that. As you're starting to review cases, and I'm sure that you're aware of this, I do have a concern that the complainant cases or voice will not necessarily be given adequate representation. Kind of think of it as like a judge and a prosecutor getting together without a defense being present and kind of coming to conclusions. I really hope that maybe that complaints won't get cut off at the knees behind closed doors on this. I'm hoping that's not the case. I also think it's a good time to kind of review the overall purpose, and which in the code of ethical conduct, it says Clark County adheres to the requirements of state law, including not limited to RCW Title 42 and the Clark County Human Resources Policy 13.1. This promotes honesty, openness, and accountability in all public matters involving county government. Later on in HR 13.1, it says that the purpose is that the county's duty is to its citizens and customers requires that we establish and maintain the highest standards of job performance in conduct in our employees. And then later in 13.1, ethical conduct says that the county expects the highest standards of integrity, honesty, and ethical conduct of its employees. Also, 13.1 says it's stated that unethical behaviors are those of which professional role is used to pursue personal interests. And in some cases, I'm sure you're 3 steps ahead of me on this, but some cases are really going to come down to this personal interest. And will county employees or officials be allowed to be, for example, dishonest or unprofessional for professional reasons or for political interests? Will personal interests only be narrowly defined as personal gain? And I think that it is broadly, that it's left as personal interest to be interpreted broadly and not just as in personal gain. So anyways, I really hope that you'll be, this will be paramount in your motivation as you kind of look at all these different things. And again, I really appreciate your effort on this. And honestly, from what I see, I have confidence that is going to continue and happen. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. We appreciate your comments. Is there anybody else?
I don't see anyone else, no.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda then is the approval of the minutes. Darcy, Barbara, did you guys have a chance to look at the minutes?
Yes,
Do you want a minute now?
I did. I move to approve.
Second.
All right. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is carried. The minutes are approved. The next item on the agenda is to review the two submitted complaints that we have on our list for today. I have read the complaints. Barbara and Darcy, have you read them?
Mr. Chair. Hello?
I was, I guess, a bit confused because the one said it was from 2024, and I see both of these are supposed to be 2023.
Might I interject, please? This is Chris Cook, the Civil PA advising the Ethics Review Commission.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's quite necessary, as I think you'll agree. Because some of the conduct that is complained of in these particular complaints might implicate the work of the prosecuting attorney's office. The prosecuting attorney, Tony Golick, has deputized on a special deputization outside counsel to represent and advise the commission on these matters. Therefore, the prosecuting attorney's office will be turning over representation at this point in the meeting to Ms. Jessica Skelton, who has been deputized by Mr. Golick, and she will work with you on these matters. She will attend executive session. I will not. I will come back to the meeting once the meeting is returned into open session. But Ms. Skelton is familiar with the complaints and with your business process. And so I would like to introduce her now and turn things over to her. And I will be leaving your meeting for now.
Okay, thanks, Chris, and hello, Jessica.
Good morning. It's nice to meet you all.
Good to meet you. Okay, so so with that said, then assuming that Barbara and Darcy have read the complaints, do we move it?
That's what I'm asking, Adam. One of them is dated, the one that I saw was dated for April 2024. Yet I see on the agenda that both of them are from 2023. Did I miss something? I saw two complaints.
Let's see. So we've got the McKenna
This is
complaint.
Kristen. If I could say something, I did send the commissioners all complaints that had been received to date, including the complaint packets and receipt memos that went out to those who filed complaints. Attached into your calendar are the two that are being reviewed today. And so Barbara, you probably did see some from 24, but I believe last meeting, the agreement was to start at the ones filed first and then work your way through to most recent.
That's my understanding as well. So the ones we would be addressing today would be the McKenna complaint and Mr. Anderson's complaint. The McKenna complaint's from June 2023 and Mr. Anderson's is from November of 2023. Barbara, is that making sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me, but I'm afraid that I'm because I'm the one confused, and maybe I can go back and pick this up while I think I have them in front of me. Yes.
Okay, so Jessica, I apologize for not knowing this ahead of time, but at what point do we move into executive session?
I think it would be appropriate to do so now, and we should state how long we'll go into an executive session, and then we can continue that if needed.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. So we're going to move into executive session now under RCW 4230 110 1F. I think probably a half hour. Does that sound right?
Adam, we do have just 15 minutes on the agenda. This is Laura.
Okay,
And if we do need to extend that time, I'm happy to make sure Kristen is aware if it's going to be beyond the initial 15 minutes.
okay, great. So we'll move in for 15 minutes then, after which time we'll return here.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, see you all in the other meeting.
The commissioners are in executive session for 10 minutes, and now we'll be returning at 10:38. Thank you. Executive session is being extended for another 10 minutes, and they now are expected to return at 10:48.
Okay, we've returned from executive session to now consider the two complaints that we have on the list for today. So I think we'll start with the McKenna complaint. And the way that I imagine we're going to do this here, this is our first one, is each of the commissioners will have a chance to speak if they have comments about the complaint, and then we'll see if there's a motion for any sort of determination that we might make. So I'm going to take the first one first. On the McKenna complaint, I want to say that I do appreciate the complaint. Under our ethics code, we're to determine whether the allegations in the complaint are substantiated. And then under our business process, we determine whether the allegations do not constitute an ethics violation or if sufficient cause exists to warrant an investigation. So as an initial matter, I'm not aware of any legal justification for treating public participation at planning commission meetings any differently depending on how the public participates. So for that reason, the McKenna complaint has a valid point that phone comments are no less important than in-person comments. That said, I did read the transcript of the hearing at issue and I watched the video. Commissioner Johnson's point that accusations of conflicts of interest should not be casually presented is, in my view, also well taken. The McKenna complaint mentions conflicts of interest, but it doesn't specify with any level of precision what conflict the commissioner has or tell us what we would need to investigate in order to determine if a conflict actually exists. Beyond that, we also evaluate and investigate violations of the Clark County Ethics Code, the substance of which comes from RCW Title 42 and Clark County Human Resource Policy 13.1. Complaints to us should specify the conflict complained of, and ideally they'd also point out specific ethics rules that are implicated by the conduct. That latter part is not a requirement, but it just makes it much more likely that we'll be able to fully understand what the complaint is complaining of. So as I view the McKenna complaint in its current form, it identifies conflict in the form primarily of Commissioner Johnson's statements, and it doesn't identify an applicable ethics rule that would render those comments actionable here, and I didn't find one looking at the rules. So with those comments, I'll pass it on to Barbara or Darcy if either of you have comments.
I appreciate Commissioner Murray's very thorough comments. They echo my beliefs as well. So that's all I have to say.
Yes, I would agree with that. I don't see enough specifics to have anything to even know what I would be investigating, as it's just generally too broad, that someone has relations or friendships or knowledge of other people in the industry.
Okay, with that said, then is there a motion regarding a determination for the McKenna complaint?
I move that this does not constitute an ethics violation as presented to us.
Second that motion.
Okay, so I understand there's a motion to make a determination that the McKenna complaint does not constitute an ethics violation. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Okay, the motion's carried. So we'll now move on to the Anderson complaint. And Barbara, Darcy, unless either of you wants to go first, I'm happy to do that again.
Go ahead, Adam.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so to me, as I view Mr. Anderson's complaint, I think it raises similarly, it raises a valuable point that public officials, elected officials, candidates for office should be held to a high standard of honesty, and I think that our ethics code reflects that. The allegation is that Auditor Kimsey misled the counselors by stating that there were only 2 errors in the 2022 ballot recounts while certifying more. And the trouble that I had with this one, let me get my notes up here. The trouble I had with this one is that I don't read Commissioner's statement asserting that there were only 2 errors as necessarily misleading, but rather that the specific allegation that he was addressing in the comment in the documents that we were sent implicated 2 specific errors. Other allegations might have implicated more of the 16 that he apparently certified, but those were not necessarily implicated by the specific question that he was addressing in this paragraph that was highlighted here on page 4 of 5 of the document. Or at the very least, I can't determine from the complaint that more errors should have been included in this particular response. So in that way, I think it's similar to the McKenna complaint in that we have, some valid points, but not necessarily enough to constitute an investigation. Darcy, Barbara?
I would agree with that assessment as well.
As do I, yes.
Okay, is there a motion regarding a determination for the Anderson complaint?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to rule that the allegations do not constitute an ethics violation.
I second that motion.
Okay, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is carried. I really appreciate everybody, moving their schedules around and bumping things up so that we can start tackling the backlog of complaints. And I think we made a good start today. We have good business processes that we've established, and I feel pretty good about the way that things are going. So I just wanted to thank everybody for being here.
Thank you, Adam. I agree.
Does anyone have anything else for the good of the order?
I don't.
Okay, then I think we can adjourn for today, and we will meet back again on the 11th.
On what?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, online or hybrid.